What's up everybody, how are you all doing? Welcome to my very first ranking video, and today I'm going to be ranking all 31 Pixar movies with the release of Toy Story 5. I have now seen Toy Story 5 twice, so I can now talk about it, and if you know me, I love Pixar. I love their movies, I grew up with a lot of their movies. Pixar, they are my favourite animation studios, but when they do make a disappointing film, it does upset me. And that's why today I'm here to rank all of their films from my least favourite to my favourite. So without further ado, let's get started. So in last place at number 31, my least favourite Pixar film is Lightyear. And this movie is so frustrating because when this movie got first announced back in like 2020, I was really excited for the movie because it was the movie that Andy saw that made him want to get a Buzz Lightyear toy. But after seeing the movie, I can confirm that Andy did not have a good taste in movies. But in all seriousness, this movie is not good. It has some nice animation. I enjoyed the first 30 minutes of the movie, but the middle of the film is very slow, and the twist with Zurg just made no sense. Good animation does not equal a good movie. That's one thing I need to get out of the way. Chris Evans tried his best with what he had, but for me, the movie, it was too slow. It was filled with too much stuff that I didn't care about. None of the side characters, apart from Socks, were interesting, and the movie as a whole, it was just a bore fest. It was a bore fest, and it didn't need to be made. So for me, Lightyear easily comes in at number 31. Number 30 is The Good Dinosaur. Now, whereas I would say Lightyear is bad, I think The Good Dinosaur is more mediocre than bad. The movie has some very nice animation. It does have its heart, but like Lightyear, the movie is a bit of a bore fest. I will admit, Arlo, his journey is not very interesting. It's pretty much like Simba from The Lion King. This movie is pretty much The Lion King, but with dinosaurs. And I wasn't crazy about that. But with that being said, I didn't hate the movie. Because at least the movie didn't piss me off like Lightyear did. Lightyear is bottom because it pissed me off more. The Good Dinosaur was just a snooze fest. Snooze fest with nice animation. I didn't mind some of the characters in here, like I didn't mind the older dinosaurs that Arlo meets on the way, but the movie is a bit of a drag. It's a little bit of a drag, but not terrible. Nice animation, mediocre film, to put it simple. Anyway, let's head on to number 29. At number 29, I have Elio. Now, I know this movie has a bit of a fan base, but to be honest with you, I'm not one of them. I don't think the movie's that interesting. I found it boring. I found it generic. Yes, it has a really nice message in there about isolation and having friends, but the movie, just because the movie has a good message, doesn't mean it makes the movie good. Because I saw the movie in theaters, thought it was fine the first time, but on second watch, I struggled to get through this movie. Elio he's a fine character. Gordon was kind of cute, but the villain was very underwhelming. Again, it uses the same tropes, like he gets bullied and he wants to find a friend that he can be with forever. We've all seen that before. But Elio did have some very nice animation. I will give it that. Had some beautiful animation. One or two heartwarming moments between Elio and Gordon, but as a whole, this is definitely one of my least favourite Pixar films, and it's not really one I would ever really see myself wanting to rewatch. So, yeah, for me, Elio comes in at number 29. At number 28, I have Turning Red. Now, I used to really hate this movie. I hated it when it came out, but when I rewatched it recently, I actually quite enjoyed the movie more than I actually did. Um, it's not a great movie by any means, but I can admit there is some heart. There is heart there. I'm not a big fan of Maylin Lee as a character. I do think she's a little bit annoying. Um, the stuff with the boy bands, as I'll admit, was kind of cool, but again, it did get a little bit annoying at times. But I did appreciate the fact that there was heart there, and there was a message there. Even though the film wasn't aimed directly at me, I can at least give it some credit because it was trying to aim for the certain audience it was. And I'll admit this, it is a much better made film than the other film that came out the same year as it, and that was Lightyear. I would happily take this over Lightyear. So anyway, Turning Red, number 28. At number 27, I have Cars 2. Now, I know this is a lot of people's least favourite Pixar film, and while I don't think it's as bad as many say, I can kind of see where they're coming from because I do have a lot of issues with this movie. I didn't get why Mater was the lead. I loved Mater in the first one because he was the funny side character, that he was very likable in the first one. He had his funny moments as well. But in this one, he's put centre forward and you put Lightning McQueen to the side. That didn't really sit with me very well. But the racing sequences, when we got them, were cool. It has nice animation, and I like the world that we got to see. But I don't get why you went from a racing movie to a spy movie, and you put the funny side character as the lead. That was one. That was Those are my main issues with Cars 2. I don't, but again, compared to the first Cars, it is a huge dip in quality. Like, you will see the first Cars a lot higher on my Pixar list. I won't spoil where it is, but yeah, in comparison to the first one, it's a big dip in quality, and therefore it's at number 27. At number 26, I have Brave. Now, Brave is probably the most frustrating Pixar film here because the first 30 minutes of the movie are so fucking good. I was really enjoying this movie. The first 30 minutes, I really enjoyed that, but after the mum gets turned into the bear, it it kind of loses me. I don't think it's a bad movie. In fact, I have it above Cars 2 because I actually can see that there was more effort put into this movie. Again, I still have my issues with it. Um, it's pretty much, if I was to describe it in two words, it would just be wasted potential. Wasted potential. Merida is she could be a good lead, but the story here, it could have been so much better, and Merida could have been, one of the a really great Pixar character, and this movie could have been a lot higher, but they decided to rip off Brother Bear, and that honestly kind of pissed me off because I really enjoyed Brother Bear. But Brave is probably the most frustrating Pixar film on this list because there's great stuff in there, but it lets itself down with the second half of the film. So therefore, Brave comes in at number 26. At number 25, I have Elemental. Now, this is where I start to enjoy most of the Pixar films here. From here on out, I enjoy all of these films. But Elemental, while it is a good movie, it's not one that I would rush out and rewatch straight away. I do think there is some nice animation there. There's a couple of funny scenes, but again, I wasn't a big fan of the romance. I thought Wade was quite annoying at times, and it tried to be a little bit too realistic with, like, how Ember and her family ended up in Element City, and I didn't really like that. But other than that, I still think the movie is enjoyable. I do think kids will get a laugh out of it, and I think some people will enjoy this more than I did. I personally didn't buy the romance. I didn't laugh a hell of a lot. I laughed at a couple of jokes, but again, it could have been something so much better than what it was. So for me, Elemental comes in at number 25. At number 24, I have Finding Dory. Now, I enjoy Finding Dory. I do think it's a good movie, but in comparison to the first movie, it just doesn't compare. I do think there is heart there. I do think it's kind of funny at times, but the thing with this movie is none of the side characters, or the new characters, I should say, that were introduced here, were all that interesting. Apart from maybe Hank the Septopus, he was kind of funny actually. Um, I did find Dory to be quite annoying at times in this movie. I didn't like the fact they put Marlin and Nemo to the side, even though they had their moments in the movie. I didn't like the fact that they were just pushed to the side and focused it fully on Dory. But I can admit, this movie done what Cars 2 didn't. It made the side character, the lead character of this film, interesting and make her have her own point of view from what she was doing. Because at the start of the movie, we get to see how she met Marlin, because she was actually looking for her family at the same time as Marlin was looking for Nemo. So then they went on the journey, and that's how Finding Nemo happened. But this one, Finding Dory is good, but again, in comparison to the first movie, it just doesn't compare. So for me, Finding Dory comes in at number 24. At number 23, I have Cars 3, and Cars 3 is a good movie, but it could have been a great movie because you're going back to the basics of the first movie, which was the racing, which I did really like about Cars 3. And up until the final act, I was really enjoying the film. And I would have had this movie higher had the final act not been the way it was. Because the original final act of the film was actually going to be Lightning McQueen and Cruise both racing, and Lightning McQueen beats Jackson Storm. But in this one, in the final act of the film, Lightning McQueen steps out of the race and puts Cruise in his place, which, when you really think about it, that is cheating. In racing world, you wouldn't get away with that. I do think they played it a little. I think that final act did kinda ruin it for me. I wouldn't say ruin it. It did. It stopped it from being great, and that was what was so frustrating because I was really enjoying the movie up until the final act. And for me, I do think this should be the last Cars movie. I don't think we need a fourth Cars movie. We have Cars on the Road on Disney Plus. But there's a lot of things I did like about the movie. I did like Lightning McQueen's journey. I liked the fact they made it that he was older and he was having to consider whether or not to retire. I liked Cruz. I thought she was a good character. Smokey was cool. Jackson Storm was, to put it simple, a jackass. But the movie, it, it was so good, but it got a flat tire in the final lap. But it still manages to be a good time. So therefore, I can give Cars 3 that. It still manages to be a good time, even if the final act did let it down a little bit. At number 22, I have Onward. Onward is a good movie, but I can admit, the movie, rewatching it, it was a little bit clunky. It had some great moments there. Had some really nice animation. It had a great brother relationship between Ian and Barley. The voice cast are great, and the ending is just fantastic. A fantastic ending. But the movie before that ending was very clunky because you've got Ian and Barley on the road trip going to find the Phoenix Gem so they can bring back the rest of their dad, as they only brought back his legs. And you've got their mum going on this side quest with this Manticore voiced by Octavia Spencer. And again, it does jump back and forth between it a lot, and I'm like, just focus on Ian and Barley. Like, oh my god. But the movie is still good. I can at least give it that. It's still good and it's still enjoyable. But again, up until that ending, it was very clunky. So for me, Onward comes in at number 22. At number 21, I have Incredibles 2, and I do think this is a really good movie, but it does not compare to the first one. I will admit, compared to the first movie, it is a bit of a disappointment. But with that being said, I still enjoy the movie. I enjoy seeing the Incredibles family together. It did borrow the same trope from the first one, but this time it's Elastigirl who's going out and Mr. Incredible's the stay at home parent. The first half of the movie I really enjoyed, but the screenslaver twist didn't really do anything for me. And I didn't really think Screenslaver was a great villain. I do think Syndrome is miles clear. But there's still a lot of fun to be had with this movie. I still think it's good and it's enjoyable, but overall, probably one of the more disappointing Pixar films. Not bad, still really good, but it could have been incredible. Pun intended. But anyway, let's get into the top 20. At number 20, I have Toy Story 4. Now, I don't think Toy Story 4 is a great movie, but I do think it is a good movie. Again, compared to the first three, it doesn't compare, but I still find this movie to be very enjoyable. I think Woody's arc in the movie is great. This is pretty much a Woody movie rather than a Toy Story movie, so that was one of my big issues, but after seeing Toy Story 5, I can appreciate this movie a lot more. Woody's great in the movie. Some of the new side characters are kind of funny. Like Duke Kaboom, I think he's the best character in the movie. Forky had his funny moments here and there. Ducky and Bunny as well. But I wasn't a fan of the fact they put all the main toys to the side. I wasn't a big fan of that. And at first, I didn't like the ending. But now, after sitting on the movie, I appreciate the ending a lot more. So, while Toy Story 4 doesn't hit the highs of the original trilogy, I still do enjoy the movie. So for me, it's easily deserving a place in the top 20. At number 19, I have Luca. And Luca took me a while to appreciate because when I first watched the movie, I didn't really like it. I had it thinking like my bottom three when I first saw it, but rewatching it and sitting on the film, I did enjoy it a lot more the more I've sat on it and the more I've rewatched it. I think the friendship between Luca and Alberto is very charming. I think the movie is funny, it has heart, and it has some spectacular animation. And I'll give the movie this. This is one that I feel like took me a while to really appreciate, but while I don't love it, I do enjoy it a lot more than I did. So Luca, good movie, but just not on the levels of other Pixar films. At number 18, I have Monsters University. And now I think this is definitely one of Pixar's more underrated movies in their filmography because when this movie came out, it came out at the same time as like Cars 2 and Brave, and they weren't very well received Pixar films at the time. I mean, Brave did win Best Animated Feature at the Oscars, but it shouldn't have, but that's for another story. But Monsters University I always felt got a bit of a bad rap. But I think over time, more people are coming round on this film, and that's what I like to see. While we may not have needed a prequel to Monsters Inc., I still think the movie does a good job at being very entertaining. I like seeing Mike and Sully in college. I think the frat brothers, I think they're all very funny. Um, and I like that this is like a college movie, and it's just so enjoyable and very very underrated. And call me crazy, but I think this is the best animated film of 2013. There, I said it. So yeah, Monsters U, very underrated movie, just doesn't hit the highs of the original Monsters Inc. At number 17, I have the most underrated Pixar movie, and that is A Bug's Life. I've always enjoyed A Bug's Life, even from when I was younger. The only thing with A Bug's Life is it was sandwiched between the first two Toy Story movies, so it was thrown under the bus a little bit. But I feel like over time, like a lot of other Pixar films, I think people have come around to appreciate this film a lot more, including me. I mean, the fact that this is number 17 just shows you how great Pixar are, because I actually think this is a great movie. Yes, it's not like in the top 10 or the top 15, but it's close. It just has a few things holding it back. Like I think some of the animation hasn't held up as well. I think some of the jokes are kind of stupid. There's a lot of jokes in here that are actually really funny. But I love the character of Flick. I think he is one of the best Pixar characters. I think it has one of the best Pixar villains, if not the best Pixar villain, Hopper. I think the circus bugs are really funny, and the flying sequences as well are really, really fucking cool. And yeah, A Bug's Life, very underrated movie. Just a few things hold it back from getting a bit higher. But it's still great nonetheless. At number 16, I have the best non Toy Story Pixar sequel, and that is Inside Out 2. Inside Out 2 was a great movie. Do I think it's as good as the first movie? No, but that does not mean it's not great, because it is. It's a great movie. It's emotional, it's funny, it's heartwarming, and I loved that this movie was about Riley being a teenager and she's having to deal with like anxiety. And I thought anxiety, she was the best character in the whole movie, in my opinion. I thought all the other emotions here are great. I love joy, I love sadness, I love anger, I love fear, I love disgust. But a few things hold it back from being as good as the first one, because there were one or two moments that I was kind of cringing at, but not in a bad way, in like a yeah. They could have done a little bit better, but that does not stop the movie from being great, because Inside Out 2 is a great fucking sequel, but it doesn't hit the highs of the first one. So for me, it's a great movie, just not as amazing as the first movie. At number 15, I have one of the two newly released Pixar films this year, and that is Hoppers. Hoppers was such a big surprise, because when I first saw the trailer for this movie, I kind of thought Pixar had lost their minds. Like, they were looking like they were ripping off Avatar, which, to be fair, the movie is pretty much Pixar's Avatar. But, with that being said, I loved this movie. I had a really good time with it. I'm glad this movie did really well at the box office, even though if it didn't make a hell of a lot of money. It still was a success, and they did market it very well. And I'll be honest, I had a lot of fun with this movie. I liked Mabel. I thought she was a very good lead character. I think John Hamm does a great job voicing the villain, and there's a great message in there about protecting the environment. And you know me, I love movies about animals, and beavers are one of my favorite animals. So I knew if I deep down I was going to enjoy the movie, but not as much as I actually do. So for me, Hoppers is probably the biggest surprise that Pixar has done, in my opinion, as of right now. It's a great fucking movie, and if you haven't seen it, I do recommend it. At number 14 is the reason we're doing this ranking, and that is Toy Story 5. Now, Toy Story 5, I thought was a great movie. I really did. I thought the movie was an improvement over 4, simply because this movie felt more like a Toy Story movie than 4 did. Because 4 felt like more like a Woody movie than a Toy Story movie. Even though you could say that this is more of a Jessie movie than a Toy Story movie, I still feel this one had more of the Toy Story magic than the fourth one did. And I thought this movie was really, really well done. I thought Jessie was great as the lead. I thought Joan Cusack done a fantastic job voicing her. Woody and Buzz's banter and their arguing back and forth was hilarious. I liked the new characters we got in here. Conan O'Brien's character, Smarty Pants, he got some laughs out of me. I liked Atlas, Snappy, and the lily pad. Yes, the movie is a little bit messy and there is a little bit too much going on at times, but it all pays off with a fantastic third act. And I need to give this movie credit because the third act of this movie actually had me in tears. I can't lie. I won't spoil anything, but if you have seen the movie, you'll know what I'm talking about. So while Toy Story 5 doesn't hit the highs of the original trilogy, I still can at least say I did enjoy the film. So for me, it's a great movie, but only time can tell whether it holds up or not. Number 13 is Up. And if Up is number 13 in my Pixar ranking, that just shows you how great Pixar really are. Because Up is a fantastic movie. Fantastic movie. The first 5 minutes of this film are amazing. Some of the best first 5 minutes of any film I've ever seen in my life. And while the rest of the movie is great, it doesn't quite match those first 5 minutes. But that, with that being said, I still love this movie. I love the characters in the movie. I love Carl. I love Russell. I love Doug. Squirrel. I'm sorry, I had to do that. I love Kevin. I do think the villain. I thought the villain twist in the movie was really one I didn't see coming. But it has a great message as well about never meet your heroes and enjoy life with people rather than being on your own. And I feel like the movie always, always makes me cry. It always makes me cry. So Up, while it doesn't hit the highs of some of the other Pixar films, I still think it's a fantastic movie. But definitely out of Pete Docter's filmography, I think this is his weakest film. So if this is his weakest film, that just shows you how great all his other films are. And he's done three other movies that we are going to talk about. So, Up, great movie, but not quite in the top 10. Number 12 is Soul. And Soul is a film that actually took me a while to really appreciate because when I first watched the movie, when it first dropped on Disney Plus, I did enjoy it, but I didn't quite hold it to the highs that like some people were saying. Was I was like, look, the movie's good, but it's not one of Pixar's best. But I don't know what it was. This recent rewatch really solidified why this is the best Pixar film of this decade so far. I think the voice cast here is great. I love Jamie Foxx. I love Tina Fey. You even got Graham Norton in here, Richard Ayoade, however you say his name. You've got so many really big names in the cast, and the movie as well is very, very beautiful. And this could have made the top 10 list had it not been for Joe and 22 ending up in different bodies. Like 22 ends up in Joe's body, and Joe ends up in a cat's body. That kind of docked it back a few points, but with that being said, Soul is definitely a Pixar film that I think you should watch at least once in your life. And it's the best Pixar film of the decade so far. So Soul comes in at number 12. Number 11 is Inside Out, and just goes to show that Pete Docter is genuinely one of Pixar's best directors because he's made four great movies. You'll see my favorite one in the top 10. Spoilers, it is Monsters Inc. That is my favorite of Pete Docter's Pixar films. But with that being said, Inside Out is not far behind. Inside Out is a fantastic movie. It goes a lot into like what goes on in someone's mind. Like obviously Riley, she has to move from her hometown to a new city, so obviously she's going to feel a bit scared and sad that she's leaving her old home. And the movie has a great message about telling you that it's okay to feel sad. And the movie also really made me cry. Like, I think this is the Pixar film that made me cry the most. definitely. And the only reason why it's not in my top 10 is because there's 10 other movies that I love just slightly more than this. But Inside Out is still an amazing film nonetheless. But anyway, let's get right into the top 10. Kicking off the top 10, we have Coco. This is, in my opinion, the best Pixar film since 2010, without a shadow of a doubt. I love this movie. It has a lot of great messages in there about, family, about chasing your dreams. Your family will always love you no matter what. I love the characters in here. I love Miguel. I love Hector. I love all of Miguel's family. And the movie is also very, very, very funny, but also very, very emotional. At the end, the ending always gets me. I will admit, Coco and Inside Out and another film we're going to talk about very soon always manage to make me cry. And that's the sign of a great Pixar film. And the twist with the villain, I didn't see that coming as well. I'll be totally honest. And while Coco isn't quite in my top 5, the fact it's in my top 10 just shows you how great Pixar really are. So Coco easily deserves a place in the top 10. So anyway, that's number 10. Let's move on to number 9. Number 9 is Ratatouille, and I absolutely love this film. I really do. But there are 8 other movies that I just love slightly more than this movie. With that being said, Ratatouille is a fantastic movie. Who would have thought a movie about a rat cooking in a kitchen would work? Who would have thought that? But Brad Bird pulled it off, and I'll tell you something. Brad Bird knows how to make some animated masterpieces. He's done it with this movie, he's done it with The Iron Giant, and he's done it with another movie that we'll talk about very soon. Ratatouille is not just a movie about chasing your dreams, it's also one of Pixar's funniest movies, I would say. There are a lot of jokes in there that I didn't get the first time I watched it, but as I've gotten older, I've seen and got more jokes, and it gets a lot funnier. But with that being said, the only thing that stops it from getting higher on the list, because I really do want to put this in my top 5, but there are 8 other films that I just love just slightly more than this movie. So while Ratatouille is not in my top 5, still a fantastic movie. So anyway, let's move on to number 8. Number 8 is Toy Story 3. Now, out of the original Toy Story trilogy, this is my least favourite of the original 3, but it's still amazing, nonetheless. I love how this movie is about what the toys do when their owner grows up. Andy's heading off to college, he hasn't played with the toys in years, and if this movie had been the last Toy Story film, I would have been okay with it. I genuinely would have been okay with it. But we obviously knew they were going to make more. But Toy Story 3 is still a fantastic movie. Fantastic. It's very emotional. The ending as well, very emotional. And you actually do think for a split second that your favourite toys are actually going to die near the end. That shit was pretty fucking dark for a Toy Story movie. And it had fair play to Pixar for having the balls to go dark. And this movie also has the best Pixar villain in Lotso. Lotso is the best Pixar villain to date, I would say. And if Toy Story 3 had been the last one, like I said before, I'd have been okay with it. So while Toy Story 3 is not quite as good as the first two, it still manages to be an amazing movie and easily deserves a place in the top 10. So anyway, that was number 8. Let's move on to number 7. Number 7 is Wally. Yes, Wally. Wally is a fucking amazing film. It really is amazing. But the only reason why it didn't get into the top five is because my top six I do have some more nostalgia for. But with that being said, Wally is an amazing film. I love the story of this robot, how he's just on Earth all by himself, and then another robot comes down to Earth and he falls in love with her, and then he ends up going to space, and then he ends up bringing this plant, which actually ends up being a really fucking important part of the movie. It's just brilliant. Andrew Stanton, he really is one of the best Pixar directors working today. I can't lie. He done a great job with this. He done a great job with Toy Story 5. He's also done a great job with Finding Nemo, which you are going to see higher. And he also did Finding Dory, which was his weak link, but still decent. But Wally, when I first watched it, I was like, okay, it's about a robot falling in love. But as I've gotten older, the more I can appreciate this film for being different from most Pixar films. And that is a good thing. So, Wally, while I do absolutely adore it, it didn't quite make the top five. But it's still at number seven, so that is saying something. So, anyway, that was number seven. Let's move on to number six. Number six, and just missing out on the top five, is Monsters Inc. And Monsters Inc. is an amazing film. It really is. It's iconic, it's funny, it's heartwarming. It was just something unique for Pixar at the time, and now it's just this big classic that everybody loves, including me. Only reason why it didn't quite make my top five was because there's five other movies that I think I would watch just over Monsters Inc. But with that being said, Monsters Inc. What is there to be said that hasn't been said already? I love Mike Wazowski. I love Sully. They are probably my second favorite Pixar duo after Woody and Buzz. I love Mike and Sully. I think they're hilarious. I love all these different characters in here. I love the world of Monstropolis as well. And the movie also knows how to make you laugh. That's one thing I'll say about Monsters Inc. It knows how to make you laugh. And I still absolutely adore this film. Even from when I was younger, I've always loved this movie, and it's always been one of my favourites. It's a shame that it just missed out on the top five, because any other day this would get into the top five, but it just shows you how good Pixar really are when Monsters Inc. is just outside the top five. Speaking of the top five, let's move right on to the top five. Kicking off our top five, we have The Incredibles. The Incredibles, the title says as itself. It's incredible. It really is. I love how this isn't just your typical superhero movie. It's also a family story about the family, about them having to hide their identity as they are superheroes because superheroes get banned. But then obviously something happens, so then they have to get called into action. And I absolutely love this film. I really do. This was the first superhero movie I ever watched. Fun fact. I still think this is one of the best superhero films ever made. I love the family in here. I love Mr. Incredible. I love Elastigirl. I love Dash. I love Violet. I love Jack. I love Frozone. He's awesome. I love Edna Mode. And Incredibles also has probably my second favorite Pixar villain in Syndrome. I absolutely love Syndrome as a villain. I think he is one of the best Pixar villains ever created. And The Incredibles is, just to put it simple, it's an incredible movie. And it 110% deserves a place in the top 5. So let's move on to number 4. Number 4 is Finding Nemo. And Finding Nemo is just a phenomenal movie. It knows how to tug on the heartstrings, it knows how to get some laughs out of you. The movie has great characters. It's just an all around amazing Pixar film, and I think a lot of people will definitely have it in their top 10, maybe top 5, as I see some people don't have it in their top 5, but in their top 10. This is an easy top 5 for me. At one point, it was actually my second favorite Pixar film, in competition for being my favorite. But over time, I have put two other movies above this movie, so it has dropped down to number 4. But with that being said, Finding Nemo is a phenomenal movie. I love the characters in here. I love Marlin. I love Dory. This is probably the only good thing Ellen DeGeneres has done in her entire career. Genuinely, I love Nemo. I love Bruce. I love the Fish Tank Gang. I think they're all great, and they all have their different personalities. And I think the movie as a whole, it does hit you emotionally. I feel like it will hit more emotionally with parents than it will with kids, I would say. So Finding Nemo, it's easily one of the best Pixar films of all time. And I don't see it going outside the top 5 anytime soon. But it just missed out in the top 3 because there's 3 other movies that I love just slightly more. So with that being said, let's get into the top 3. At number 3, I have Toy Story 2. And this is my favourite of the Toy Story sequels. Because this movie took everything I loved about the first movie and it made it even bigger staked. While I don't particularly think it's better than the first one, I think it's just as good. I love all the characters in here. I love Woody. I love how this film focuses on Woody as he has a dilemma. He can either go back to Andy or he goes to this museum in Tokyo, Japan with the Roundup gang. And speaking of the Roundup gang, all of them are great. I love Jesse. I love Bullseye. I love the Prospector. And I did not see the Prospector being the villain. That's one thing I'll say. And I love the fact that all the other toys as well get to go on the mission as well. So like Rex, Slinky, Ham, Potato Head. And there are a lot of jokes in here that I didn't get when I was younger. But as I've gotten older, I've been like, oh, ho, ho, okay. And I'll say this. Toy Story 2 is the funniest Toy Story film. It's the funniest Toy Story film. And this, in my opinion, is also the most emotional Toy Story film. Because when you look at Jesse's backstory, that scene always gets me. Always gets me. And you know Pixar have done a great job when they get you crying at a toy's backstory. That's how you know Pixar have done a great job. But anyway, Toy Story 2, phenomenal sequel. Doesn't quite beat the first one, but it's just as good. So anyway, let's get down to the final 2. Oh man, people are going to be so mad that I have this movie at number 2. But at number 2, I have Cars 1. Now, I know people are going to say, oh, this movie was made to sell toys. Okay, maybe it was made to sell toys. But when you pay close attention to this movie, Cars has a great message about life not being all about trophies and fame and glory. It's about slowing down, enjoying the simple things in life, and meeting people along the way. And that is what I really appreciate about this movie. And I also love Lightning McQueen's character arc as he starts off as this cocky, unlikable jerk race car, and then by the end of the movie, he becomes a totally different character. He's nicer, and he's literally sacrificed winning the Piston Cup to help the king cross the finish line so he didn't suffer the same fate that Doc did. That is some. That takes a lot of courage. And I also love the characters in here, the other side characters. I love Mater in this movie, he's very funny. I like Sally, Doc Hudson. Doc Hudson is one of the best Pixar characters ever. I'm just going to say that right off the bat. He is up there in my top 20 Pixar characters. The soundtrack for this movie slaps. The animation is held up very, very well. And I'll admit this, there's actually one scene in the movie that actually does get you choked up. It's when you look back at Radiator Springs, what it was like in its heyday, to now. and it was pretty emotional, I can't lie. But anyway, I know a lot of people really hated on this film when it came out, but I have seen a lot of people over time come round on the film, and it has gained a big following over time, and I'm happy to see that. So Cars, well, I don't think it will hit with a lot of people. It won't resonate with a lot of people per se, but I still do believe that this film is amazing. But it's not number one. But coming in at number one, my favorite Pixar film is still to this day the first Toy Story. There is no doubt in my mind that this film will always remain my favorite Pixar film. This is the movie that started it all for Pixar. Because if this movie had sucked, we wouldn't have any of the other Pixar films that we have nowadays if it wasn't for this movie. So I do have to put the movie at number one for that. But not just that, Toy Story isn't just my favorite Pixar film, my favorite animated film of all time. It's in my top three favorite movies of all time. Genuinely. That's how much I love this movie. I love the characters in here. I love Woody, even if he is a bit of a jackass in here. I do love him. I love Buzz. I love Rex. I love Slinky. I love Mr. Potato Head. I love Ham. I love all these characters. And the fact that we've been with these characters for over 30 years now just shows you how beloved the Toy Story films really are. And I guarantee you we will get a Toy Story 6. I guarantee you. But with all that being said, the first Toy Story still holds up 30 years later. The animation, yes, it is a little bit dated, but it still holds up very, very well. I will admit that. And I love the fact that it's a movie about these two characters who they don't like each other at first, but then they end up getting separated from their owner, so they have to work together, become friends to get back. That is actually really fun. And for all the reasons that everybody has said online, Toy Story easily comes in at number one. So there you guys have it. All 31 Pixar films ranked from worst to best. Now keep in mind, this is all just my opinion. If you disagree with my ranking, that is totally fine. But remember to please be respectful in the comments below. And please like and subscribe if you haven't already, because we're going to have plenty more content coming here. Whether it's movies, TV shows, video games, you name it. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out, G's.